I've been asked for a bit and I figure it's about time to do it. Had a lot of questions asking me, how do you do it, how do you forward drive a Sylvia, what do you do, what was involved here, what was involved there. So I figured we'd do a walkthrough from the front to the back. Try and do this as one long shot. Might have to break it up, depending on how many mistakes I make. But yeah, we'll start at the front. Quite honestly, it's need to preference that it's not going to be a cheap setup to do. If you're just going to try and do it on a budget, what's the point? You want to do it properly, and you're better off just to chuck some proper money at it and get all the good bits. And that comes right down to the motor. This should make it just over 500 kilowatt when it's all done. So, but end of the day, what's the point of doing this with 250 kilowatt? No point. You might as well just bought a standard car. So you want to go all out, make it worth it. So you need to get a engine that's got a four-wheel drive block, or you have to get an adapter plate. That way you can run the front sump. That's easy enough. Front sump obviously means you need drive shafts, which means and then to mount the block you need the right cross member. Mounting the cross member basically means there's two options about it. You either cut out a Stagia or a GTR front rails to suit, or you do what I did and drill some holes, add some cross tube, weld it all in nice, and then to get the height of the engine correct you use some spacers on the bottom. For me, I made some nice alloy spacers, nice and thick, nice and strong, not going anywhere. Also gives a little bit more of a spread out on the chassis rails. This also gave me enough room for the axles, which is all good. See if we can get it in there. The caster arms, just need to get some adjustable ones because obviously you're mounting it in a different spot, that way you can true up the wheels perfectly. LCA is easy, GTR Stagia. I'm going to just refer to it as GTR the whole time, but in most cases Stagia stuff is exactly the same, or any other four-wheel drive Nissan. Another one is the Coilover. Some coilovers will work, some won't. Basically you need to allow for CV boot clearance, so the strut can't come out the bottom of the coilover, so you need this nice short body. This can be achieved with some off-the-shelf ones, but most of the time you'll need a custom coilover, which Shockworks are able to help me with on this case. Let's get out front there. Big one that people have been asking is, what front hubs, what knuckles? Quite honestly, I can't tell you, mainly because I don't remember. I went to the wreckers and then basically just had a pile of measurements, my verniers, tape measure, and I went around till I found the right one, the right spline size, the brake caliper bolt spacing the same, and the right stud pattern. As for the tie rod end pickup point, that was completely wrong. I had to cut and weld that, and even the strut where it connects to the coilovers, the bolt pattern was correct, but still wasn't in the correct spot, so that took a little bit of finessing to make work. Not too bad there. But yeah, the front knuckles, kind of easy if you can cut, weld, and then to bolt the knuckle to the LCA, you either need to convert the LCA to run a ball joint, or you need to get a plate made and weld it onto the bottom of the knuckle to convert it to accepting the 2-volt setup of the GTR. Moving back a little bit further, so clutch is all pretty similar, just RB. And then we got the gearbox, which means we need an all-drive gearbox, which pretty easy, actually cheaper than a 25 box, which is good, but we had to cut a hole in the floor and weld in a big bit of plate for the transfer case hump. Again, not a hard job on its own, but another job that needs to be considered, as unless you can fabricate to a certain degree, cut and weld, you're not going to be able to do this yourself. As we go further back down the car, we got the tail shaft, which will need to be custom made again, as you won't be able to buy an off the shelf one. What else is there? So when we go to the diff The rear diff ratio needs to match the front diff ratio. If you buy a whole donor car to begin with, easy enough, as you can just bolt it all in. But yeah, if your diff ratios are out, the wheels are always going to be fighting and you're going to blow one of the diffs up pretty bloody quickly. We got a little bit further back, we go to the all drive controller, the Atessa pump. Basically this is just a high pressure fluid line that runs to the back of the gearbox and controls the transfer case. To control this, I've used ATS full race Atessa, whatever controller it is. It's not a cheap unit to buy, but it does the job perfectly. It gives me some adjustment in the car. It's got a G sensor, all that jazz. If you want to know more, just look them up. I'm not going to get into too much detail about that. But yeah, it works well, but it's another cost to allow for. But a side effect of having that, probably 5 drives in my old car, I blew the front diff. Apparently quite common, as a couple of the other boys have done it since in their GDRs with this controller in there, which meant I had to chuck a Quafe front diff in, which was a couple of grand. So basically what I'm saying is none of the setups are cheap, and putting it all together is time consuming. If you can't cut and weld, you're not going to be able to do it yourself, and paying a shop to do it, I reckon I'd just laugh at you and tell you to piss off. This video, basically the setup, pretty much true to all S chassis. I guess anything that runs a McPherson strut like this at the front would be the same. And yeah, it'd just be the length of your tail shaft that would really change. Working out where my cross member was going to get bolted was kind of a bit of guesswork, kind of just trial and error, but you can see the wheel sits pretty much centre in the guard, so we know we've done well there. Actually, one I forgot, and it did catch me and a mate out, is the steering rack. The steering rack, it needs to be the all drive one, as it sits further over to the side, otherwise the uni will be sitting inside the front diff, which, because you're running a different position, then the column needs to be shortened as well, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. You can either do it yourself or take it to a shop and they'll probably laugh at you and go, why the hell would you want to do that? So yeah, again, pretty much have to do it yourself. I hope that gives you a pretty good rundown on what's involved. Happy to answer some questions, but as I said, it's kind of one of those jobs, if you've got to ask how to do it, you probably shouldn't be doing it yourself.